quickest way for me to get there, and then he'll just bang a shot once he's in the position that he likes to be in. So it is interesting because we've kind of gone away from what I would have typically thought that we would be looking for. And Paul, the main consensus was that it was either Šeško or Gyökeres as the main candidates for centre forward this summer. Did you find yourself leaning either way, and where do you stand on the more here and now signing as opposed to Šeško, who would have been the younger, needs more moulding kind of signing?
Yeah, I must confess, I was leaning in the Šeško direction, but A, it's a silly name, and B, he feels aesthetically kind of what we would look for as an Arsenal centre forward, the kind of the subtlety of game, he's definitely an all-rounder, and he's big and he's physical and growing into that side of his game, but there was kind of subtlety and classes, and I've swung the other way, because guess what? They told me who I was actually going to have to marry in our arranged marriage. And I wasn't that far behind on Big Vic, rub him all over your chest. Here's what I like about him. He won't be ignored. He's super physical. He loves, not that, Sesko wasn't going to be physical, but this guy's defining MO is that kind of physical battle, that peeling off, that running in behind. He won't be ignored. And one of the challenges we've had is getting at the zone 14, the central area of the box, getting in there. And the feeling was Sesko kind of swings to the right-hand side of the pitch, over to Saka's side, a little bit of combo stuff. What we actually need is somebody who opens up that side. We've got enough players there already. Victor Gyökeres likes to peel out to the left-hand side of the pitch, right? That's where he likes to drop in. A bit more what Gabi Jesus, the area he used to drop into, or peel in behind. He's much more aggressive getting behind. So for me, he opens up the pitch. He opens up the central areas more, that even if the ball's on the right-hand side, he's going to tend to want to move towards the back post or curling behind the defender, and the centre-backs won't be able to ignore him. He has that Haaland-esque quality. Okay, not 100% Haaland, but 85-90% Haaland is a lot of Haaland, right? So he will not be ignored physically. His centre-back will come with him as he kind of peels out to the left, and that opens up that central area a lot more for Saka and Odegaard. We don't need a third, fourth body over there with Ben White. Therefore, they bring 5 defenders. I think it plays in some ways to how we would like to set up, and gives combos over the other side to help whoever is there. So I like the way I think it will open up the pitch. I like his runs in behind, the aggressiveness. To Clive's point, it gives us a real clarity and identity of attack on the front end, which means everybody down the pitch knows what they're trying to do. And it's not that, he's dropping in, do we knock it around a bit, we have an extra midfielder. There's a time for that, and we have players for that. But this will be stretch them, get at them, get in behind, open up the pitch. Everybody kind of knows the plan. We're very good at fast counter-attacks, but we don't do a lot of them. And this guy on the pitch is going to be we're sitting back, we get the ball, we're not going to wrap back, we know we're going to go. Everybody knows the plan. As soon as we get the ball, you know that guy's going to be making runs, and he's going to be pissed off and in your face, one way or another, if you're not getting the ball to him. If he's got 90 minutes of making runs in behind and you're not feeding him, he's going to let you know. He was asked, what does he need to score goals over the weekend? He says, assists. I like that.
Well, it's an interesting comparison you've made with Haaland, because, like you said, in the videos that we've seen and the videos that have been released, there's very much a me hit ball hard, me score goals kind of quality to him. Not much else, because let's be honest, if you were looking for a good interview with a chatty guy, he's not that guy. He was just very much, what am I here to do? I'm here to score goals. And there was a really interesting article in The Athletic, written by James, actually, another journalist called Mario Cortana, who basically gave us the inside track on the move, how it came about, and why the transition from Edu to Jason Ato and then Andrea Berta was so crucial, because his fingerprints, to me, are all over this move. I mean, I thought it was quite obvious how Berta was driving this one, because as soon as that initial article came out from David Ornstein, I think it was late March, and he'd only been in charge for about 3 or 4 weeks by that point, and it said Berta was a firm admirer of Gyökeres. We added him to our summer shortlist, and that felt very pointed at the time. And he seems to have a type when it comes to strikers, having signed the likes of Diego Costa, Luis Suarez, even Alexander Sorloth as well for Atletico Madrid. There are aggressive, physical guys who run it behind, and they share this love for scoring goals. And Clive, you've alluded to this a couple of times already, but some other bits have come out in the wash. I think this was in the Telegraph article about Šeško and his doubts about coming into the Arsenal team, about competing with Kai Havertz. Do you think a difference in mentality maybe ended up helping sway the deal in Gyökeres' favour? Because there were some things in that Telegraph article that I didn't really like, I have to be honest, when they were talking about Šeško.
Yeah, and those sort of rumours have been around for last summer. I really want a big time team Šeško. Because I've just seen Kai Havertz have the best 6 months of his Arsenal career. Well, imagine if we get another, a bit more souped up, a bit more muscles, and maybe a bit quicker. That means we'll have 2 centre forwards that can maintain the same style of play. That's where I was last. I stayed with that right until January. I kept hearing this chatter about him not being sure. And I thought, then I get the I'm an Arsenal fan. I really mean not sure about something to Arsenal. So you immediately go into defence. And then you hear about the other. Okay. His character seems different. He seems to really want the challenge. He wants the club. He wants the league. He's prepared to do anything to get him. I think it's very important when you walk into a club, a job. You've negotiated a really high wage you need to get here. You walk into the room, all your teammates look at you and say, yeah, alright. You better look after this ball. They whack the ball with your first touch, better be good. The patience around it, I think, is different. I think it has an effect in the dressing room. Gyökeres now. You keep quiet in the car park, I don't think anyone's going to be bothered initially. Because we know he's really focused on us. And we give people patience like that. And so I think I was disappointed in Šeško not really pushing for it. I said it, and it's out there, right? We're going to see. And then I only thought of Šeško to suit up Havertz. And then I saw Havertz with dumbbells. I thought, hold on. He's souping himself up. Why don't we change and have something different? And that just makes sense when you've got a squad. We had 2 things fairly simple. We haven't got the shots, ball striking that Šeško has with Havertz, but you've got the physicality, so have something different from a sprinting point of view. And that's why I sort of flipped over to Gyökeres. I was looking at him do everyone studying, so I was studying him as well. I saw something today. He looked all these shots and his carries around the box. You know what, we always talk in football about your first touch, right? Your first touch, and what it does, it opens up the pitch for you, blah, 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 makes the next action easy. Look at the time we shot for, I know you're a scout. Look at the time we shot. Look at his last touch before he shoots. It is like the picture was drawn 3 touches before. The last touch before the shot enables the power in the ball strike. It's perfect. Striking the ball is all about keeping it in your circumference, in your distance around your ball. Right in the stand, but it's perfect. That last touch capability is the thing I think that separates him. And he does that in the hustle and bustle of the penalty area. It's always where he wants it to be, and he gets around it. And that's where his ball striking comes in, takes it early. I thought, you know what? You know what you're doing in here. We haven't got anybody like you in our club that only cares about scoring. So in a 25-man squad, 60-game season, one of those bad, is it? One of those blokes, that really cares about that. I think it's very important. And so I flipped over, got the age, got rid of Elliott and Scott. Voices out of my head when it comes to age curve. Got rid of
He's only just turned 27.
exactly. And he's about to turn 26. So I'm only 12 months in it, and I keep thinking about Lewandowski, 36. I tease myself with that, So yeah, 5-year contract. Brilliant. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote it in my Ask blog piece. I said sometimes when you're struggling to pick the lock, there's always the option to kick it down. And we haven't had many of those kind of players, and I think he just brings that single-mindedness, that ability to lead the line in a different way to Kai, who likes to get around the pitch, but in a different way. He likes to drop in and help and support people, whereas Gyökeres is head down, I'm running in behind. So that gives us a real option, especially away from home, for example, if we want to just stick him on the halfway line and let him go. So I'm really curious to see how he gets on. I think, to be honest, Spurs is going to be a big ask for him to kind of get on the pitch there, but maybe they'll just put him in as a kind of, let's get some people excited, can we give you 5 minutes at the end of a game? But otherwise, I think it's a really good deal. Considering how Sporting sort of dug their heels in a little bit, I think we've done really well with price, considering what Šeško might end up going for if Newcastle and United are in for him, what Isak will go for, what Ekitike is going to go for, what Nicholas Jackson could go for. You know, we have to look at it in that sort of prism. And, you know, I think he wouldn't be everyone's first choice, and I don't think he's the perfect player, but I can see a lot of possibility with him. So that's where I'm kind of looking at it from. And ultimately, when someone wants to be here that desperately, you can't rule them out. So I always like it when players make it known that they want to be here.
Absolutely.
I've heard a bit about you, Clive.
I don't need the ball. Just show me where the man is. I'll take him.
I need some comps of you with your flat top kicking people. That's that's what I need. So yeah, that's kind of Big Vic. He's done. He's signed. I'm sure he'll be in training with the guys over the next few days. But again, maybe a bit early to see him for Spurs. But Emirates Cup, I'd assume so. There was a game that was played on Sunday, believe it or not, and I think we should move on to that now because it was against Newcastle, and they offered a very different challenge to Milan, who were missing some players. They were strolling about. There was no chance of any strolling about in this one because I think even automatically by playing a Premier League team that already adds some needle and pace into the game, even though it's pre-season. And let's be honest, we don't need any more of that against Newcastle. There's a lot of history there. There's a lot of physicality in these games, unfortunately. And even before the game, I was thinking, why are we playing these guys in pre-season? Spurs as well. But yeah, the last thing we needed after last season was Sandro Tonali crunching into tackles and Joe Linton charging around with his elbows. But I think we managed the game quite well overall after maybe a little bit of a slow start. We were a bit slow out of the blocks. We looked slightly leggy, and their pacey front three in particular, Anthony Gordon, obviously Elanga as well, Osula, they were very direct, pressing us. They were looking to get in behind them. We just had a bit of a shock with that because we were expecting a bit of possession, coming into the game nice and easy, but there's no chance to do that against Newcastle because they'll always look to be aggressive. And they did end up taking the lead. Clive, I'll come back to you. Just already the starting 11 was quite strong, but there was a presence missing, let's say, in that midfield in Declan Rice. Do you think his absence affected us during those early moments when it came to managing transitions, tracking runners, that sort of thing? Because I look at Mikel Merino, maybe a little bit culpable for that first goal. He just switched off chasing Tonali. Do you think Rice was a bit of a miss there?
Yeah, there's a few things. I'm learning to watch pre-season, so I've been through a few myself. And what you particularly the first time training, and then you play in the afternoon. How they do it. I trained them all, obviously. Right, so they didn't play in the afternoon, and so you can see that we were leggy, particularly in the first phases. And although we pressed onto them, they popped around us, and they got a good goal. But even to the point when they switched out to the right wing behind Trippier, we just strolled over there. So Trossard strolls over, and he couldn't get there. And in the league game, Trossard is there, and he's forcing him to turn backwards. But Trippier could then turn forward. So the shout to Trossard is cut line. He lets him have the line pass, right? There's no communication there because everyone else is blowing. So you can always tell in pre-season the distances are big. We're a very compact team. Which either direction you want to go. We start seeing big distances and centre mids and back line. And Supermendy and Marina running back like they've got a caravan behind them. You think, hey, this is pre-season, man. and then they get the lucky finish. And so you've got to keep calm about it. But I'm glad we didn't play that because we want to find out. There are 3 or 4 players in there. When I turn up at I want to see them. Yeah, on this podcast, we talk about player welfare all the time, right? So the two don't compute, right? So you have to say to yourself, at some point we're going to have to rest these people. So we need to find out how those combinations work. And what we need to do to make sure we don't get caught in transition. We got caught in transition a few times. They got excited because they don't know what's right. And so they were thinking, oh, we're going to beat you, that is that sort of thing. And I'm looking at the screen and thinking, crikey, a few days before I'm thinking we win the treble. 3 days later I'm thinking, I see the vulnerabilities here. We have to just calm down a little bit. So I thought there was some things there, Phil, to look at, but I can explain it away by the fact that we're trying to get these players up to their physical potential. And the only way you do that is by putting them in situations where they're uncomfortable. And so when you see people running off people and they're doing doggies, see it as a positive. Right? Not in a league game, but in this game, see it as a positive because they're getting fitter. Right? So switch your brain around. And so yeah, Supermendy, I bet the manager was buzzing with Supermendy and Marino. So although they were leggy, they got through and they're fit. And they're fit the next time we see it.
Yeah, I think we did well to wrestle back some element of control in the game because Newcastle did edge those early phases. And for me, I'm quite happy to sort of disregard pre-season and say, look, all the good stuff I'm going to take into the season, and all the bad stuff I'm going to say wait to pre-season. Probably pass here and lose touch there, and I'm just thinking to myself, okay, well, I'd rather they do it now than at Old Trafford. Paul, talk to me about Mikel Merino because I think he had an interesting first half. Again, maybe not the most convincing performance in midfield. It was a bit slow to turn on occasion. A heavy first touch at times as well. There were a few passes that went astray. But then you see him in the final third, and he's scoring goals like a natural. And I just think, what is this guy? He's a bit like Calafiori, and I look at him and say, you're doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing. Why are you doing that? Because it makes them so difficult to define and understand. I mean, that little play in the lead up to his goal, obviously, he's got back, he's won the duel, he's found Havertz, he's followed his run, and the finish is just unbelievable there. So composed into the corner. I know you're obviously, you try to be on the right side of history when it comes to Marino, and I know you've had your battles with Elliot. Could you just tell me what we have here? Because I thought I knew, but obviously I don't.
Yeah. So, like, I don't know what we have here. I don't think we've really seen it yet.
Right, next question.
Yeah. I don't think we've really seen it yet. Like, last season was weird. Comes into the team. He arrived late. He arrived basically after pre-season because he had the injury, so he took a while to get there. He's obviously got a big frame. Takes a while to get physical and fast. I'm with you on pre-season, by the way. On the one hand, pre-season is the real season. That's my motto for this thing. On the other hand, it's like making a series of pancakes. You know, you're there with the frying pan, you got the batter, you pour on the first one. The first one, you throw it away, you give it to the dog. So that was the first game we played. The second one is always like a bit 50-50. You know, will I eat this one? Probably tastes okay, but it doesn't look great. The third one's good. So the next game, you start to take it more seriously. And I'm with you on you keep the upside, you throw away the downside. It's asymmetric certainly for the very right till the end of pre-season. You don't worry about the fact, like, you could see why they scored the first goal. We didn't get that, right? Ben White has 2 players to mark on the back post, and he goes with Gordon, reasonable, and like this guy standing in the middle of the box and bobbles one into the back of the net, Alanga, and he's supposed to be on the other side, but nobody's tracking him, he's running all over the pitch. You don't have the legs for that, and like, I was about to say, who should have got back with him? I'm like, I don't care, it's pre-season. Now, of course, the answer is very possibly Miguel. And again, I don't care, he's a big guy. He's going to need basically the whole of pre-season to get to where, because he was pretty good last season once he got fit and getting back and covering. He knows where to be, he knows what to do. But like these guys, it's not their job to pop a spring running back to save a situation in pre-season when that's not where they're at yet. Now, who is he and what will he be when he settles into the left 8 role? I don't know yet, but like what did get unlocked from last year is he has no stress at all about taking shots, rolling the ball in. Like snooker shot, I like that one. He kind of knew it was a goal before it got anywhere near the net. He was starting to peel off and just celebrated. He's got it. It's easy. He's going to crash the box. He's going to score goals. For the Spanish team, he's a role player. looks like for us he's going to have to be a role player. But that was the Real Sociedad midfield. Okay, those three guys never really played any minutes together that I know of, but they did in pairs, right? He certainly played a whole bunch with Zubamendi. And I think that's very, very interesting, and I want to see more of it. And, you know, he presses. I'll tell you where he's got his game really good at the moment. His rolling around on the ground is right back to his peak levels of last season. He's really on it. He's really there. He you know, he senses the situation. He's there before he's even fouled. So that the more progressive elements of his game, the more attacking elements of his game are clearly in. The defensive piece, I'm going to let that pass, but we will find out this season what kind of a left eight he is and how much game he has on the ball. Because I think he has more than we think he does. I think he's got we've seen him with quality passes, through balls, etc. But he hasn't had a lot of time in that position for us. So this season we get to find out.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, that made it 1-1, and then we had the own goal before half-time. Lovely finish at the right post, actually. That poor kid, I think Saka was starting to get the better of him at that point, and he completely lost his head. Clive, did you want to jump in there?
Could I throw in one thing quickly? Sorry, Clive. Like, the one thing, like, he had moments of quality, and mentioned his quality. Like, he puts in a beautiful cross from the left-hand side for HEX, an aerial ball. Like, he's got a lot of
with that one, I think, actually.
Yeah, he's got a lot of quality in that boot. So, yeah, I just think we'll hopefully see the quality part of his game from the left eight side and not from the striker position going forward. And, like, his confidence must be a lot higher than when he came in. Sorry, Clive.
No, it's all right. I've got some thoughts here, actually, and I'm wondering if we are mystifying him. So, the way I sort of look at midfielders, your first midfielder is your 6, your second midfielder is R8, your third midfielder is R8-10. I always thought Marino's a second midfielder, but I'm wondering if he's a third midfielder, because closer to pressing the opposition and getting around the goal, he's really effective. The first time we saw it was Bournemouth. We're not getting close. Remember that game? Oh, we couldn't get close because we were not front two press, right? We used Odegaard. I think he was out at that time. But the more you see him around the edge of the box, you realise this guy's elite. Think about the pass for Saka's chip at the Bernabeu. When he's around there, I'm wondering if they're profiling him. You know, because maybe it's 1-up, and I know there's a lot of pressure on the number 10 position, because there are lots of people who play it, you know, and I can see a situation. You've got so many configurations with any given game. Let's give you this configuration. Having Havertz and Marino, Havertz left eight, Marino right eight, and a centre forward. That's a lot going on there. You know, that's a lot of stuff going on. And so I'm looking at him slightly differently. And last year has changed my thoughts. I think he's a very good forward player that needs to be around the edge of the area, and he can really deliver in the box. He's a huge goal threat. When you have that goal threat, I'm not sure you want him running back into your penalty area and heading it away from your box. How about him heading it into their box? And it's something to think about, right? We've got options, haven't we? We really got options.
And maybe Zubamendi has the kind of time and space now where or at least that's what he gives the team, where Marino can stay up the pitch, play his more aggressive part of the game, and they know they know each other. They know he knows when Zubamendi will need more help, but Marino will have more opportunity to stay up the pitch this season than last, given who's in the DM spot, and reading each other and knowing when to make those moves. So I like that take, Clive, but that's where I would want to see him playing.
Yep, exactly. And I've got another thought process, right? Maybe Marino sort of represents something in our manager. In years gone by, he would have probably bought Fabian Ruiz. A little bit more expressive on the ball, more of a playmaking. That's what us Bengals drilled into us. When Marino turned up, firstly he was broken, he couldn't run. And he always looks half a yard off where he needs to be. And then you look at him, you look at the data after this season, and it's like a silent player that just helps your team. If you look at what he did towards the end of last season, without him, we know where the things are moving. Seriously, we very things. We lost our way. That was when. So I think it's such a. I think we probably get Majors Player of the Year. You know what I mean? One of those players. At the end of the season, I think he's a player that we're starting to learn about. It's so interesting to see what he does this year because he does look quite fit. He looks good weight-wise. He looks fit. He didn't show it in this game massively, but he's on his way. He's a new player in the first half of the season. That's good looking. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I do worry about him a little bit technically, especially when he's facing our goal and receiving, because he's not quite got the 360 vision around him to be able to drop a shoulder or a no-touch turn. So maybe that is the answer. Maybe we can just put him further forward like we did with Granit Xhaka, who also used to get caught facing his own goal as well. And maybe that was the prototype, although he was much more left eight than further forward, although he did pitch in with a few goals. There is a story here in the first half, and it's Ricardo Calafiori. I know he came off in the second half, but he started again at left centre-back, and it's really frustrating to be having this conversation about him again, because he went off just after half-time with a tweak. Okay, Arteta described it as a tweak, but when you go down alone, without contact, it's always a worry, and naturally you go to the worst case scenario when it's a player with his injury history. Although he did walk through the mix zone and he looked alright, said he was okay. Fingers crossed it's nothing serious, but I'm starting to worry a little bit because we've seen this player before at Arsenal, the what if player. What if he didn't get injured? What if he could play consistently in the team? And I thought he was playing well up until that point. He also played well against Milan a couple of days before that, but you can see him doing Calafiori things, because even though he was playing as the left centre-back, he was popping up on the left wing, he was breaking through the centre of the pitch, he gets us going in transition. I just think he's such a funny player, because he's got no interest in staying in his position ever. He just cares about going forward and vibes. You know, that's Calafiori, he doesn't care. And I think that could be so valuable for us, but also I look at him and say, can you play 3 games in a week? And my feeling at the moment is no, although I guess when we're building a squad with this much depth and quality to it, maybe he doesn't need to, but there are a few doubts creeping into my mind about his overall condition. And I want to ask this question, okay? And I'm going to put it back to you, Paul. Obviously, Gabriel and Saliba, they're our first choice central defensive partnership, as they should be. But Gabriel, still being eased back into the team, hasn't been in the squad for the last 2 games. They're obviously not risking him, which is the right thing to do. Let's say he's not available for Old Trafford. Calafiori's fit, Kiwior is fit. Who are you choosing in that lineup? Obviously, there's a whole load of pre-season to go. People can make mistakes, people can come into form, but going off gut instinct, who would you prefer to be partnering William Saliba at Old Trafford?
Well, I'd prefer to be Calafiori, because, like, if Trent Alexander-Arnold were a left centre-back, he'd be Calafiori. I mean, 2-3 of those balls that he spun up from the centre-back position, as you said, up in the attacking areas, in the laggard in the offside position when the strikers and the forwards had got back was Calafiori dropping in, and his instinct isn't, oh, I better now get back to cover my spot. His instinct is, here's where I can do the most good for my team, and you check the back line, Miles Lewis-Skelly has shuffled into his centre-back spot, and I'm like, I like this. I love what's going on here. They didn't know what was going on. Like, that's a player who's unmarked, because nobody's marking the centre-back in the attacking line. I mean, other teams will learn during the season as long as Ricardo can stay fit here. But, so to your question, who should start? If he's fit enough to start, you know, that's the only question, right? It's the fitness team and the manager saying, what is the trajectory to get him to the best state over the season, and be patient. So I'm not in any